What's up, guys? It's Fahad in Japan, and I decided that since the JET application for this year is about to start, I would make a series of videos talking about the kind of applicant that they're looking for, the application process itself, the interview, all that good stuff. So I'm going to be making a series of videos kind of discussing all those various points. You guys are more than welcome to send me any questions if you have any. You can comment below, or you can actually email me, fahadinjapan@gmail.com, and I'll put it down right here. As well as in the information box. So first, let's start off with the kind of applicant that they're looking for, and I'll give you my personal experience. So as far as me, I volunteered a lot, I studied the language, I worked with a lot of exchange students, and that's pretty much all I did. So to give you all a little bit of history, I started studying Japanese at the end of my undergrad, like literally the last semester. So I was not majoring in it. I was a biology and a chemistry major. I had nothing to do with Japanese for pretty much all of my undergrad experience. So for those of you guys that kind of started off late, it's definitely not impossible. I mean, I'm pretty much the prime example for that. But what I did do was I really volunteered a lot. So I was the vice president of the Japanese club at my university. I did tons of fundraisers every single year. I'm thinking at least like 15 or so a year for like a couple years or so. And through that process, you create a rapport with the department, the Japanese department in your university itself, the Japanese community in your town or city. And that really goes a long way, because what are the components of the application? You've got the application itself, you've got your personal statement, you've got your letter of recommendation. These three things kind of create what the essence of your application actually is. And so that's your word of mouth, other people's word of mouth, and then the application. So it's really important to go and take the time to do all these things. And if you're genuinely interested in Japan and want to make such a huge life decision, which is like to move out here, you shouldn't feel like volunteering and stuff like that is a burden anyways. Like, it's genuinely fun, you know? That's how I felt about it. Like, I went with a bunch of friends, we volunteered at fundraising events, cultural awareness and stuff like that, and we created a lot of awesome memories in the process. But also I created a rapport with the community and the teaching Japanese department. And as far as my letter of recommendation goes, I had, there was two of them. I had one by my Japanese teacher, and another by a lady she was my Japanese teacher for the first year I was taking it, but after that, basically all I did was just volunteer with her. We had this thing at my university called the East Asia Institute, and so they basically organized tons of events for different aspects of East Asian culture. And so every time there's something Japanese related, I was there, whether it was cultural affairs at the university, whether it was fundraising, whatever it was, I told her I was ready to volunteer, and she took notice of that. And I'm sure, as far as the letter of recommendation goes, it was like clearly stated in there that this guy actually took the time out of his day to consistently volunteer and help. He actually wants to do it. And as far as my Japanese teacher goes, I audited the class, so like by no means was I required to show up, but whether it was an 8 a.m. class or whether it was a 1 p.m. class, I consistently showed up and I was there and I was doing the work. So she put that in the letter of recommendation, that this guy actually cares about the language, he cares about the culture, he would make a great applicant. So these two things, I mean, this isn't me, these are my actions speaking for me. These aren't like me saying like I did all this, right? So you gotta create that rapport with your community and the actual Japanese department at your university, so they can back up who you are and they can actually vouch for you and say that you'd make a good applicant. As far as the personal statement goes, honestly, it's kind of difficult to summarize everything about yourself in 2 pages, right? It's really not easy. So the important thing to do is plan it. Like, create a plan and kind of think about what you want to talk about, what your history was. Myself personally, I broke it down to where I started from, how I had no relation to Japanese at all, how I got introduced to it, and then how life-changing it was. And it was life-changing in the different aspects of how I involved myself. So like the volunteering that I talked about, the language itself, and another factor which I haven't discussed yet was the meeting Japanese people. So the foreign exchange students at my university, just meeting them was life-changing for me. I mean, they're some of my best friends now. They are the reason I can speak Japanese. They constantly help me, and I talked about that. And if you put down on the paper your actual experience, the life-changing moments that you had, like I had, and I'm sure if you do it, you will have it too. It makes an effect. It definitely creates an effect, and it makes you stand out from the other applicants that are just taking all these classes but aren't really putting it into action. And that's something that's so important, is putting all your talk into actual action. So those are some factors, and that's what I did. So we had stuff called Conversation Club at my university, where Japanese people and students would come together and we would just do language exchange. I did one-on-one language exchange for years. Basically, just me sitting down with a Japanese exchange student and just talking. And it would be English, it'd be Japanese. I'd teach them colloquial English, they would teach me Japanese. We'd fix each other's grammar, stuff like that, and together we'd consistently improve. And through that process, you create like a bond, right? Like you get to know the person, so it's not just 1 hour conversation, it's 1 hour of actual hanging out. And that creates an impact on who you are as a person. And when you put that down on the paper and you turn that in and they read it, I mean, it definitely creates an impact. And it shows that you care about Japan. So that's the most important thing, guys. Again, your job is to come over here, and they're entrusting the youth of Japan to you. So it can't just be just some guy out of nowhere who doesn't care about anything. You have to have action and history to back up what you want to do, and that's what's so important. So before the application itself, you have to be this kind of person. It doesn't mean you have to major in Japanese. I did not major in Japanese. It doesn't mean you have to be fluent in Japanese at all. Like I said, I've met plenty of people that can't speak at all. So if you don't meet those criteria and you're worried, don't worry about it, because as long as you're interested, and it's not just about anime and manga and stuff like that, right? You have to be about Japan, not just one aspect of it. So the language, the culture, the people, all these things has to be part of who you are, and the history has to back all that stuff up. So you need to make sure that you're that kind of applicant, an applicant that's well-rounded in the sense that you have been consistently making an effort to take part in the community, because that's what this is. You know, it's a huge change in your life, and you're going to be diving into the community itself. So you've got to be that kind of applicant. So these are the things that I did. This is the kind of person I feel like that they're looking for. So basically, to recap, volunteering and in like the Japanese community in your local community is very, very important. Learning the language is definitely a plus, because it's another factor in Japan as a whole, and showing that you tried is a huge difference maker, right? Interacting with actual Japanese people. I come from San Antonio, Texas, where like the Japanese population out of like the 2.5 million people that are there is like 600 people. It's nothing. And so interacting was extra hard for me, but I still managed to do it, whether it was with a bunch of housewives, old people, young kids, no matter what it was, I took the opportunity to do it. And that's what you should be doing, because it really, you can learn the kind of people that they are, and it kind of helps with the culture shock itself when you come here, and you kind of learn the kind of behaviors that they have, the way they speak, the whole read between the line things that's so talked about Japanese culture. You get to experience all that and learn the language itself. And taking part in club stuff like Japanese club or language or calligraphy, whatever your university may have, is very important. And so if you don't have anything in your university, go make one. I mean, when I became the vice president of the Japanese club, it was pretty much dead. Like, there was nothing happening. And I decided to get with a buddy of mine who I suggested should be the president, who, by the way, is also a jet now. Let's start this thing. And so we worked our asses off. We created flyers. We woke up at 6 a.m., got to campus at 7, and started talking to all the classes and kind of, asking them to come. And we created this huge thing again out of nothing. So it's definitely possible. There are people that are interested in it. So don't feel like it's not possible if it's not at your school. You can do it, and it makes a huge difference on your application, because if you're an officer, it shows leadership potential. So definitely do stuff like that. So volunteering, interacting with Japanese people, studying the language, taking part in your university's Japanese culture, stuff like that. Those are things that should be part of who you are when you're applying for the JET program, because that will set you in like this category that's basically fits the criteria of the people that they're looking for. And if you want to get into the JET program, those are definitely things that you want to be incorporating into who you are as a person. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to comment. Ask me whatever you'd want to ask. Email me if it's more of a private question, fahadinjapan@gmail.com. I'll try and reply to all of them. And if there are questions that constantly come up, I'll actually incorporate them into my next video, and so we can talk about it. That's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any more questions. The next video is going to be about the application itself and all the different steps and parts of it, how I did my application. So look out for that video, guys. Thank you very much.